Hi, I'm Kiwi,
And I'm Jared.
and we are the two gentlemen coming to you as cool as the breeze. Jared, how are you?
I'm good because finally the breeze is cool. It's been very humid lately, so it's a nice change. So yeah, good intro, mate. That was one of your best.
Thanks, Jared. I was
Ah,
inspired by the trees moving outside, and I thought, oh wow,
ah,
it's actually a cool day today. Nice.
we have to look, and there's art all around you, artistic material all
Inspiration.
around you. Yeah, no, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm funnily enough still getting over my sneeze and ribs incident from a couple episodes ago. But I looked it up actually, and I'm not overly impressed because the it's quite common in the senior community.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I'm not there. Apparently, well, by age I'm not there, but maybe by rugby age I've like
Yeah.
play that many games and I'm like a 100-year-old. But
Like
yeah,
the
yeah,
dog
pretty
years.
common in the seniors. Yeah, that's in rugby years. Yeah, yeah. So um, yeah, so that's an update on my ribs. So hopefully everyone. It's still pretty sore actually, just quietly. It's I don't know what's going on. Anyway, whatever. What about you?
I'm really good. I'm a bit sore myself. That's because I played tennis for the first time in ages yesterday.
Yeah.
And when you're just using muscles in a different way, like especially the back muscles. Oh man, yeah. So I'm aching, but it was great. Really good to get a hit out.
It is, and nothing like the Australian Open to fill tennis courts up. Every time in
Yeah,
January, you drive around and you're like, hey, why is these courts always filled up?
yeah, that's
Like,
right.
yeah, everyone gets a little bit inspired and off they go. So and the old body gets sore. Your mind thinks you can get to that ball, but
I know.
the hamstrings don't so much. But yeah. Actually, I was looking around the house. I was cleaning up the other day, and I was cleaning in the room, and I'm like, I don't know about you. Do you have like I've got like every now and then you pop on a shirt for an hour or so in the house, and then you get changed. So you're like, do you put that shirt in the wash? Like, is that like a common thing? Like, or do you have a place in your room? Like, I had this pile of like shirts that I'd worn for an hour, and then I'm like, 5 days later, I've got five shirts in. And I'm like, oh, I just put them in the wash later. But then, like you think, oh, I'll just rewear that tomorrow after work or something for another hour because you think, oh, I only wore it for an hour. It's surely not dirty. Yeah, I don't know if that's a common thing or if I just need to
It
do more
is.
washing.
I think the law actually states that if you've only worn it for an hour, you can't put it in the laundry, but you can't put it in your wardrobe either, and you can't put it on the
Yeah,
floor.
that's right.
So it's anywhere like a chair or on top of a bench or something. That's okay.
So basically, whenever you get somewhere that's like has a bedroom with like a sitting chair, that's all. That's what that's for.
Exactly.
That's a closet really
Yeah,
for worn clothes that aren't ready for the wash, but it can't be rehung.
exactly. Exactly.
So it's a thing. Cool. I thought it was just me. It was a bit risky. I was like, oh, do I sound like people are like, oh, wash your shirts, dude. Yeah, but yeah. So that's my. Okay, cool. I feel normal. Okay, cool.
We're all weirdos, Jared. I've always said that. We're all different.
We are. We are, mate. We are. Mate, got something for you. The way I'm gonna word it might come out wrong, but anyway, I'll just throw it out there. I believe there's a thin line between, guiding someone, helping someone, giving advice, I guess, through life, and maybe being a little bit controlling, overbearing. I sometimes try and not. I sometimes feel that I can, I recognize when, oh, you know what, I'm kind of putting my beliefs or my goals onto my kids, or if it's a work situation, you get asked your opinion, and then you sort of, you put your opinion there, but then you carry on a little bit more. Is that something that's prevalent that you've noticed, or did you do?
It's something that I have to be aware of. Yeah, it's really important to know and catch yourself and try to step back when you realize that it's happening.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of it, especially parents.
yeah,
Um, and just, the outcomes we want. And look, the thing is, it's not evil or anything. We all want the best for our kids, for our colleagues, for our friends, for our family, whatever it is, whatever situation it is. But there's got to be a lot of trust in every relationship, doesn't there? And especially with our kids, it's about trusting that process, that this tiny little thing is going to grow up into a fully functional adult at some point that can take responsibility for their lives. And there's a lot that can go wrong between here and there. And it's up to us to overcome our anxieties and trust issues to allow that flower to just blossom.
It's definitely tough. And look, I think we've sort of touched on the whole letting go with kids, you know, your kids and stuff. But yeah, it is, you know, it is a thin line. I say that because it is so easy to cross it. You know, if you succeed at something, or something works out for you personally, like even something as simple as like, oh, you know, this accountant really helped me get through my tax this year. So, you know, if anyone asks me about, you know, do you know anyone that can help me? You like push them towards that person because you're like, oh, this person's amazing, you know.
Yep.
But they were perfect for you, but you know that other person might not have the same, you know, thought process. And if you keep hounding it, no, go see that guy. He's really good. Like I think that is then stepping over the boundary. Like I try and, you know, I try to, happy to pass on in that situation, happy to pass on the details of somebody, but if you don't want to use them, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know? But I'll tell you, I had a good experience there. But you can really be sort of like, and I mean, that's just like I said, that's coming, like you said, that's coming from a good place. You want that person that's asked you to have a good experience. But I suppose if you start badgering and you know, going through the process of like, no, you know, go with him, you cross that line. And I mean, that's, like I said, that's just a trivial sort of thing. And there's a lot more situations that you go through when you are a parent, or, you know, in a workspace that even in your relationship, you know, that you would come across these sort of things, and you have to navigate through it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when you just added there that there was a trivial example, I was thinking that at the time, how such a trivial little thing can actually can blow up for a lot of people. And I was thinking, why would that be important? Like, why would you want this person to see, you know, your accountant or whatever it is in that case? And a lot of it's got to do with we feel more validated when other people agree with us. Yeah. So if someone else says, yes, your accountant was amazing, you'll be like, yes, I'm on the right track. Or even, you know, even to blow it up even more, it could be joining your cult or something, you know. And when I say cult, I don't necessarily mean any sort of nefarious cult that you go to where you're doing some sort of rituals, but, you know, it could be any sort of thinking that you're a part of, whether it's a political party or your diet that you've got, the new kind of workout regimen that you've adopted at that point in your life. When someone else joins that, you feel validated. You feel like, yes, I'm on the right track. So I think that's got a lot to do with it too. I completely agree and validate that last statement, mate. That's totally agree with you. Look, it is. It's you know, let's be honest. It's a nice feeling. It's an egotistic. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's an ego thing. You know, like you know, like, oh wow, I told them that they could do that, or you know, and they did it. That's awesome. You know, like everybody likes that little bit of that validation. You know, that's probably, I'll probably use the wrong word when I said ego and egotistical, but yeah, it's, if you know what I mean, everyone really does, you know, even to the point where I remember, like, I'd recruit pretty hard for guys to come play rugby, you know, like, you know, and it's like, wow, you come down, you know, it's all about you know, you make heaps of friends, you play a bit of footy, you know, you're going out all the time, and, you know, like, and when someone did come down and play and then they played well, and you're like, well, I brought that guy to the club, you know, like you get that sort of big-headed feeling about it. And you know, and they're having a good time. You're like, wow, that's awesome. You know, they wouldn't have had this if it wasn't for me introducing them to the club, you know? So yeah, it's everywhere, mate. It's everywhere. It's from the, like I said, from the trivial little problems to, you know, raising children. Like it's and I'll repeat, it's a thin line to cross. You will cross. Yeah. Everyone will cross it. And that, what we've just talked about then, the whole validation, is just one aspect of wanting a particular outcome for a person. I mean, that's for us.
let's go back to, I guess, for our kids, that's probably the bigger issue.
Mm.
What is it that makes us so controlling sometimes with our kids? Like, why would we put in so much effort to get people to think a certain way? I mean, I know people who've indoctrinated their kids from a very young age to believe what they believe. Even, for example, buying them a football jersey for their team, for example, things like that. And that's just a silly little example, but, it can become big over time. I do remember I had a boss once who was Scottish, and she was talking about her dad, and he wouldn't, the Celtics and the Rangers.
Yes.
That rivalry, I don't know which one he was, but, she couldn't date a guy who supported the other club. Little thing. I was about to say that's little, but no, that's huge, actually. But why is it so important for us to want our kids to turn out a certain way?
I don't know. I mean, I think at the start, I mean, because at the start, and look, again, with possibly repeating ourselves from previous episodes, but from the start, you're everything, right? That's so you are controlling this person, this little baby, then you slowly, let them go. But I think there's also some, I don't know, like, there's also some things where you're just like, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. That the kid's gonna, and I know this kid's gonna follow that football team, and you're like, well, why is it a no-brainer? It's just, like, I know my youngest likes another football team that I like, that I don't barrack for, and I'm like, well, I don't care, but people around me are like, oh, she doesn't like that team. I'm like, I don't care. Yeah. She likes the logo, like, or she likes it because her grandmother likes it, like, so what? Like, wherever that passion comes from, that's her. If she grows up to follow that sports team because it's a memory of her grandmother, like, in 50 years time, like, so what? Like, that's cool. That's the origin of that love, and who am I to change that and go, no, you must go for this team because your father did. Like, that's, it's so, but I mean, that's trivial to me, but yeah, I do. It's weird that, when it's such a, almost like a religion, sport in some areas, like, that, like you mentioned, that Celtic Ranger, like, that's crazy that the girl couldn't date someone. That's 50% of the population probably. Like, exactly. Just cut out of, could be a nice guy, but he wears the wrong jersey.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, it's passion. I suppose it comes from passion. I don't know. Like, does it? Does it come from, like, not everything is passion, but I suppose that particular one comes from passion.
I think a lot of it's fear. I think we're afraid of what can happen. I think we're afraid of the other. A lot of the time, we don't understand another way of thinking, so our automatic reaction is to be afraid of it.
Yeah. Rather
than embracing it and trying to understand someone thinking another way. I think a lot of the stuff with our kids, when you said that, about being controlling, the thing I think about most with parents controlling their kids is our career path.
Yeah.
And
I was going to bring that up.
And that's quite understandable. I'm not saying it's okay to force someone to do anything. I'm just saying I understand. I understand why you'd have a fear of your child choosing one job over another, because we want our kids to thrive. We want them to survive. And, it's part of our selfish genes. We want our genes. We want to propagate our genes. That's the whole point of having a physical body. We want to pass this DNA on, so it lives forever, generation after generation. And, our ancestors have lived on forever through us. So it's a totally natural thing to want to do. So when your child says to you, oh, I want to be a painter, and you realize that very, very few people make it as painters. I want to be a musician. Very, very, very few people make it as musicians. The ones you hear about are the, top 0.00001% of people. Yeah. So there's a reason why you get this pang of anxiety when your kids do that. Or if they quit something that they were really good at, or they don't do something that you think that they could have fulfilled their potential in. It's really understandable why a parent would become anxious over that.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, everything's, money driven. So there's definitely an aspect to that as well. You think,
like the amount of times that when I was growing up, and then even, you know, I find myself doing it, you know, like, okay, well, you know, my kids are only young, but you think, well, you know, she's showing, you know, sort of, you know, mannerisms that would suit this kind of, because with experience, we know that, okay, these jobs are relatively safe, you know, like,
Yep.
if you can get it, become a teacher, a nurse, a doctor, you know, like these things are always required, right?
Yep.
But if, you know, there's jobs in history that don't exist anymore. You know,
That's
my
right.
mum was a proofreader. Like,
Yep.
so what, you know, that for those that don't know, that's essentially she would read the newspaper, whatever publish. She'd work for a publishing company, and it would, you know, she'd read whatever they published the night before or the day before to make sure there was no spelling mistakes. So she was the original spell check. You know,
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
It was a trade, like. And when she finally retired, she was one of the last ones around, you know,
Yeah.
and, because, you know, obviously you just type it in and you get told if it's right or wrong now by the computer. So, amazing speller. She could spell anything, you know, like, but yeah, that was a trade, but, you know, it doesn't exist anymore. So you sort of think, well, all right, well, what's a safe sort of role, and what's going to be around in 30, 40, 50 years time when you're still working, you know?
Yeah.
And like you said, if your kid wants to be a musician, you tend to go, okay, that's cool to do as a hobby. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, and or if you want to be a painter, go for it. Yeah, I'll completely support that. I'll turn the garage into an art studio for you. But, you know, you do that after you get home from work or school or uni or whatever, you know. And is that wrong? Like, I don't know. I can't really answer that. I mean, I would say that getting a good career will allow you to, you know, follow those dreams as a hobby. But then if you want to make it a career, well, then there's another step you got to take. And yeah, I don't know.
I know it's
evolution. I really don't know the answer, mate.
Well, look, it's only the strongest survive, Jarad. And
yeah,
obviously, of course, it's not always the best when I say the strongest. Sometimes it's just the people who have the most tenacity and also just the marketing experience. You know, I know of people who have made it who weren't the best in their field, but they might be the best at social media. You know, they might have had a connection at the right time of their lives who helped them get that foot in the door, and then they become a name, and then all of a sudden, boom, there they are. So look, it is really scary, and it's totally understandable why a parent would go, oh, you know what, I'm going to steer you in this direction. Okay, you're going to become a doctor. Simple as that. You're smart enough. You'll get the marks. You'll get in, and it's going to be terrible for a few years. But trust me, when you've got a house, you'll be happy.
Like, I was an accountant. You're an accountant. You're going to be an accountant. Like, your brother's going to be an accountant. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's always required. You know, like, you know, you'll go to school, and then there's something I noticed, and it's hats off to these guys and girls that have had a career change. Like, they've done something really, really awesome for 10, 15 years, you know, you know what, this isn't what I wanted. And they put everything back into it, and they have a career change, and they do really well. You know, some people join the fire brigade, like join the ambulance, like join services that they go, you know what, as a kid, I didn't really know these existed or wasn't really, you know, but now as an adult, I use my experience to go, you know what, I'm a plumber or an electrician or a chef or whatever, but I've done my time here. Now it's time to try something, you know, and something that with that passion that, you know, like they don't see themselves being that plumber, electrician, chef for the next 30 years. They want to do something different. So I think that's a pretty cool sort of step. And that's, I suppose, controlling and guiding your own life. But, you know, I suppose, is that like an answer back, not an answer back, you know, maybe they were guided to become that previous employment, and then they've gone, okay, I've done my time, I've done everything I should. Now I want to actually have a crack at something that, you know, makes my soul sing a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe, is that maybe what you're seeing down the track?
Possibly.
Kids that have been sort of not pushed, but directed in a direction of an apprenticeship or get an apprenticeship, get a trade. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then once they've done, they're like, okay, I've set myself up. Now it's time to do something for me, you know, that I actually want to do.
Yeah, so that sounds like very evolutionary. You know, you're getting to a point where you can survive, And then from there, you know yourself well enough to feel another part of your soul, another part of your cup. So I think that's totally valid to just get your foot in the door into something, just to learn how to survive before you can learn how to thrive.
Yeah.
And, learning a trade is a great way to do that. Just getting a degree, any degree under your belt might be a good way to do that. And then from there, like you said, when you're much further down the track, you can actually choose something that will make your soul sing.
Yeah. I mean, I just see that I just made a little I know it's different to what we're talking about. I made that little connection that possibly those, they've been guided well. They've been guided. They've started, possibly started their own business or working for a high company, but a high quality company. But then they, for whatever reason, it's like, okay, I've been guided well, and now it's time to do something. And it might be anyway, I made that connection. So sorry for sending it down that way.
No, not at all. But going back to the idea of controlling somebody, what are we afraid of exactly if we don't exercise some sort of control over a person? What do we think is going to happen?
Good question. Are you got an answer to that? Because I'm gonna think about that, if that's all right.
I don't have a particular answer. I haven't thought about it myself, but I'm guessing there's obviously a lot of fear around what could happen. We think that the devil's going to come up and take our child and lead them down the wrong path. Is that it? Is it that we think someone's just going to waste away, and if they don't have any encouragement, that all they're going to do is sit on the lounge and play Call of Duty all day? Is that what we fear? Do we fear that they're going to go down the drugs route instead of, if they, for example, if they don't play sport anymore, they won't have anything to do, so they're just going to go and meet the wrong crowd? What is it that parents fear the most about letting their kids have control?
Well, I mean, what you just said there was basically if they had nothing to do. So you kind of went, what are they going to do? Sit on the lounge? What are they going to do? If they had nothing to do, go hang out with the wrong people. So are we filling trying to fill the time with, hey, do something, do anything, so you don't end up, down that wrong path, or, eating chips all day while playing computer games, So there's a certain aspect of that. Like I think it's just to stop them from doing nothing. Like, we want them to move. We want them to thrive. Like I said, we want them to thrive. So I think the fear of them doing nothing probably makes us, and nothing leads to nothing, nothing leads to, unemployment, in our head. Like that's, if you sit on the lounge for the next year playing computer games, you're not going to have, experience. You're not going to gain. Like, it's all about gaining experience for this thing we call life.
Yeah. One of my friends, her boyfriend is extremely intelligent. She said, in his spare time, he spends most of it playing video games. And she said, what's wrong with that? He's a smart guy. He's got a job. He takes care of himself. But, left to his own devices, he does want to play video games. So is that okay?
Sorry,
because
that's different. I think that's different because it's not filling nothing. Like, it's not, it's kind of like just his spare time, if that makes sense. It's
because he's paying his own way through life.
Eating if he calls in sick to work, that's a different story.
Yeah. Look, just going back to what you said earlier about giving kids something to do to fill the time, is that the point of life, though, to just fill in the hours until we die? Is that it? Or is it to live with meaning? And I look at my kids, and I'm not saying I'm doing this right or anything. So please, anyone out there, I'm just part of this conversation. I'm not leading it. I'm not, I'm not the one with the answers. We all have an answer for this. So please don't think that I'm talking from high above or anything like that. But when I look at my kids, something I've been really proud of is the way they've found their passions and the way they've been able to discover them. Just before we started recording, we had a little chat, Jarad, just about our weekend, and you were asking me how my last few days were. And one of my best moments in the past few days was watching my youngest son in the swimming pool. He was just swimming so well. We actually mistook him for his older brother at one point. We think, oh, wow, look at him going. Well, oh, wait, that's not him. Right. That's the other one. Yeah. And he found that himself in the past probably month. So we went up to Coffs Harbour and had a holiday up there. The plan was for him to go snorkeling. He chose his snorkel for Christmas and he loved it. And then when we got there, he just wouldn't go out anywhere that it was too deep where he couldn't stand. And I was like, oh, wow, like I thought he was really keen to do this, but he was just really, really nervous. And we didn't push it at all. We didn't say, oh, look, we spent all this money. You better make use of it. So it's like, okay, you're not ready. That's totally fine. And, I'm glad that he feels like he wants to be in control and feel safe. Anyway, we get back to Sydney, and now he's just going out into, much bigger surf. He was doing backflips at freshwater beach, in the water and that sort of thing. And then in the pool the other day, his freestyle was just unbelievable. He was diving beautifully, treading water for ages in the deep end, doing things that we didn't force him to do. Yeah. Now, I wouldn't encourage this, but he hasn't had any swimming lessons. I'm not telling other parents out there, don't send your kids to swimming lessons. It's a waste of money. Yeah. My eldest son did because he wanted to. My youngest didn't because he didn't want to. And, now his swimming is great. 4 days ago, it wasn't great. So I'm just using this as an example to say that, look, sometimes things just happen when they're ready to happen. And, there's no pushing involved in getting him into the pool. It's like, no, you've got to put your head underwater. It was, a natural flow of events, and he's been empowered to make those choices. I'm hoping that he can feel empowered for the rest of his life to make career choices, to make relationship choices, to never feel pressured to do anything. And, that he's got the kind of mind that's already geared towards critically thinking about everything that he does and going with his heart.
It's definitely something, and it's awesome to hear. And it's just something that, when someone's ready to do something, it'll happen. Something ticks over in your mind. And I was going to say in your little mind, but I shouldn't have, for that. That's not the case. It can happen whether you're 2 years old or 80 years old. It doesn't. It's not just kids. It's as soon as you're ready, you're ready. Like, I think I find myself and on both sort of parties sometimes. Like and it's afterwards I think, what, was I too tough, or did I do something wrong there, or did I not push enough? Did I push too much? Like, it's just like, let's just take, you use the swimming as a thing, and like we've had our kids taught to swim for years and years and years, and again, it's just sometimes it just happens. Like, what are you creating if your kid doesn't want to get in the water? If your young fella didn't want to get in the water and you turn around and, no, sorry, we bought you that stuff, you're getting in now, and then you throw him in. Yeah, you'll be safe. I've got you. You'll be safe. Like, that's just going to create more anxiety for him.
And what's the message there? It's the grown-ups have the power. You've got no say in your life. I get to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Wow. What does that do to a person?
That's right. And so for me, I know that in the past I've felt, like, what, I probably shouldn't have, just, she didn't want to go in the water and I took her in, for example. Now, these days, I sort of have this thought, well, they'll go in when they're ready, under the same aspect of you, and I'll be there to help them if they want to be helped, and if they don't want to be helped, and I'll be close by enough to jump in if they need to, if they need me. But that leash will get longer at a certain point. But yeah, so like I admit, I'll put my hand up, I've probably gone against that as a younger parent, but as I get on and get more experienced at this thing, I'm like, well, if they don't want to go to the deep end and they're, you're like, no, I'll take you out. And they're clawing and saying, no, they obviously don't want to do it. So respect that. I think that's the message I want to put out there. Like, just respect that they're not screaming because they're kids. They're not screaming. They're screaming or they're saying no because they don't want to do it. So respect the fact that they're doing it, and they'll be, when they're ready, they'll do whatever they want to do when they're ready. I had a little, breakthrough this weekend as well. Like, my eldest was the same. Didn't want to get in the water, or didn't want to go without me. Like, she'd be happy to latch onto me and let me walk her out to where I could stand and she couldn't.
Yep.
But the moment, like, I'd even like look in a different direction, she'd be like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Like, she freaked out. Like, she wanted to do it, but she was scared. And I'm like, okay, well, so I'd leave, I'd have claw marks all over me because like they're grabbing onto me. But on the weekend, and it was just her birthday, and it sort of, like something just triggered. Like she just ran into the water, and even to the point where I was like, hey, just pull back a little bit. I'm not in the water, you know, like she was starting to get up to like her, you know, above near her neck. And I'm like, that's amazing, you know, compared to what she was a month ago. You know, so it looks like we've both had breakthroughs this weekend with water. But you know, I didn't want to jump on your story and say, yeah, me too. But yeah, like it's, you know, and it's so much nicer to watch her do it when she wants to do it. Like, you know, because her eyes lit up when I said, oh, she goes, can I go back in the water? I said, yeah, I'm just going to sit on the sand here. And I was only like 5 meters away.
Yep.
I go into where you're comfortable. And she's like, what? By myself? And I said, well, yeah, I'm here. I can watch you. And, you know, and then, I said, don't do it, you know, when I'm not around, but at the moment, but, you know, like, go for it. And she's like, oh, okay. And off she went. And I was like, ooh, nice father moment, dad moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Jarad. Look, I know we're running a really short of time here. I just wanted to talk about one other thing. We're talking about letting a flower bloom naturally. Now, the thing is, sometimes there's a time limit on this sort of thing. For example, if you've got a child who's really, really talented at something, but you can only make it at that certain point in your life. For example, that opportunity you had to go to France to play rugby, you can't do that now. You know, you might have the mind that's ready to do it. You know, notwithstanding the fact that you've got a family, you couldn't do it. You're a 41-year-old man. They're not signing you up.
Is that a challenge? Hang on, I just sneezed and hurt my ribs. I'm not playing rugby. But I know. Sorry. Yeah.
But this is a really it's a really tough topic, because if you do have a child who is, for example, a sporting prodigy or a music prodigy who has an opportunity to make it at this moment in time, what do you do? What is your role? What is their role?
I really don't have a really definitive answer, and anything that's going to blow anyone away. But, you know, like in your head, you're like, okay, I'm the adult here. I can make this, I have to make this decision for them. And it's like, hang on a minute. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. But then you should, like, it's like, well, okay, they're a 14-year-old kid, for example, or a 10-year-old kid, or whatever it might be. And they've been given this opportunity. And you're like, well, I'm the one with the experience here. I need to make this decision, you know, and I'm sure people go through this all the time. And you're like, well, what about the 10-year-old or the 12-year-old, 14-year-old kid? Like, do they want to go and do that? Do they want to, you know, play music or play sport? You know, like, but are they old enough to make that decision, mate? Like, I know you have your opinion on this and your kids make decisions early. But there's a lot of kids out there that haven't had that opportunity to make those decisions. Yeah. It's a tough one for me, I'm sitting on the fence, and I know that's a really rubbish sort of answer, but I suppose you just got to try your best to make sure your child is happy. That's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. You know, if your child isn't happy, they can be the next, the next Ronaldo at soccer, or they can be the next, you know, Nadal at tennis. You know, like, but if they're not happy, then, mate, I'd be more than happy to throw everything in. Like, really, like. It's not about you. It's not about what they're going to become. It's what they are now, you know? I
think that was a really good answer, Jarad. I'd go into it, but we're actually out of time. I don't want this to run too long.
Don't let my answer be the only one.
Join us next week when Jarad gives all the answers to all of life's questions.
Yeah, there's a new one called The One Gentleman. One Gentleman. The Gentleman podcast. Yeah.
Look, I'll quickly finish up with just an anecdote about my eldest son. He loves garbage trucks, as I've talked about many times. He'll get up to chase trucks at really early hours of the morning, especially when there's a council pickup on. Last week, we went out and met two lovely guys. I just want to give them a shout out. They were just so nice to us, so nice to my son. And I spoke to my son about it. I said, could I stop you from doing this? Like, is there anything anyone could do to stop you from chasing trucks, from making a YouTube channel, from being a garbo? He's like, no, this is what I do. I was like, exactly. You know, that's passion. You know, he's a young boy. He's been doing this since he was 18 months old. Okay, we can't stop him. Okay. If I tried, he'd say, I'm not listening. You know, I'm going to go and live my life. And that's great. And that's where I come from with this. If your child really wants it that badly, they'll go and do it.
Yes.
My youngest son has just got into archery. again, we don't push him. It's like, oh, archery classes on this week. Do you want to go? Yeah, I want to go. I'd rather he didn't. It's so expensive. Jeez, I can't afford it. But, it's his passion. So let's do it. I can't hold him back from it. So to me, it comes down to how much work someone needs to be putting in and if they're willing to do it or not. My elder son's just got up there. He's just giving me a wave now. And he's going to jump on his iPad and check out his garbage trucks and all that sort of stuff because this is what he loves to do. I'm not forcing him to study. I'm not saying, hey, you've got to remember the names of all these, reloaders. Nope, this is just what he does. So I guess what I'm just trying to share that, when someone's got enough love and passion for something, they'll do it. Now, on the flip side, there's no way I could drag him out of bed and drag him around town to chase something that he's not interested in. Okay, that would just be painful. So, look, if you're lucky enough to have a child prodigy in your house who's great at sport or music or whatever, look, hopefully they love what they do. And if they don't, hopefully you love them just as they are.
Yeah, well said.
All right, Jarad, have a great day, buddy.
You too, mate. See ya.